Paris is feminine. Paris has this feminine energy. But Paris has this kick, this kind of thing. Like, don't mess with her. And she's just gonna do what she does, and you're gonna have to like it, or you can go.
Hello and welcome back to the Americans in Paris channel. My name is Molly Sabrier, and today's video is going to be a bit different than the other videos we have been posting. It is a conversation between Steven, my co-host, and our friend Vince, who is also an American in Paris. So throughout the video you will get to know Vince. You'll enjoy some fun sports talk, which that is something you will not find on my videos, so enjoy it here. You'll get to know a little bit more about Vince's first couple years in Paris, how he's adapted, how he's made friends, all of that stuff. This is just really a good insight into what life is actually like when you move to Paris from the United States. And before I forget, because I always do, if you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It's really helpful for us as we try to grow. So I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be a two-part video. This is part one. Part two will be released in about a week, so keep your eye out for that. And as usual, enjoy.
There you go. Cheers. Slancha or
Santé.
Santé.
We have, unfortunately, as though we are friends. Interesting enough, this is also of the era of the Fly Emirates. So
Right.
they're competing Fly Emirates jerseys, which shows you they're older jerseys. So right now, PSG is sponsored by, I think, a French hotel chain.
Oh.
And Arsenal is still sponsored by Emirates, but the tagline is "Fly Better." But why are we in jerseys? The American in Paris. This isn't a soccer channel, unless it's a Champions League night in Europe, and
Not just Europe.
not just Europe,
But this American in Paris is very interested in tonight because PSG is playing Arsenal in the semifinals. First leg.
When I first came to Paris, I became a PSG fan because it was the local club, and there are longer conversations we can have about Paris FC and Qatar ownership. That's for another time. I'm a longtime Arsenal fan. Very excited. All Arsenal fans will tell you we're just we're just happy to be here.
Have you been to the Emirates?
I have. Unfortunately, my record at the Emirates for the team is bad. The team does not win when I'm at the Emirates. We draw or lose. In the Emirates 4 times. However, I was there for an FA Cup. So we were playing in the FA Cup. I want to say 2014, 2015, and Wembley.
When you say we, you mean your team?
Right. Wembley was full. Sold 20,000 tickets to the Emirates, and we watched on the biggest portable screen in Europe. And for those who know that game, it was an unbelievable comeback story. Anyway, we are way off. We're talking about soccer, talking about football, but this is the context. So that everybody, this is Vince. Vince also writes for the American in Paris. I actually want to start by talking about Vince because one of the things we've been doing on the channel is giving you practical tips. But in a sense, Vince is a case study. He is someone who came to Paris in the last 3 years.
November 2021, November 17th, 2021, I arrived.
And so there's been an evolution in this Vince. And
My hair is grayer.
It happens. Vince, why don't you tell watchers and listeners a little bit about yourself and then go right into what brought you to Paris?
Man, really give you the whole story would take you an entire movie. I needed to have a fresh start, and it's hard to talk about this because I don't want to talk about it in these kind of cliche terms. A fresh start, beginning, the country's burning. It's about that, and yet so much more. I think it's about the idea that being in the States, I'm from LA, essentially. I've lived in LA since I was 10 years old, so since 1979, and nothing surprised me anymore about America, Americans, about everything. It was almost like, you could just give me a little bit of your backstory, where you're from, in a kind of like almost astrological kind of way, sort of geographically, and maybe culturally, and then I'd go, okay, here we go, and action, and I could kind of predict what you were probably gonna do. Not to say that I know everything or know anyone, it was just getting boring, and I needed to come to a place where I just knew it had the same interesting LA energy, but with New York and New Orleans, which New Orleans is I love New Orleans, and it's Paris and art and all of it, and I wanted to learn French. I wanted the challenge of learning another language because I knew it was just going to, sprout little synapses in my brain. Maybe that's part of it, is that it's a tale of mortality.
Well, I mean that sets it up on a much higher level, I would say, for many of us. I came to Paris because I sold my business and it was something I'd always wanted to do. I didn't have, I think, nearly the context. And one of the things I've, obviously watchers and listeners, you're meeting Vince for the first time, but one of the things that I know about Vince that I always reflect on regarding myself and other people is he spent a lot of time in Paris before moving here. In 2016, I want to say.
You keep talking, I'm going to get something more stuff.
Okay. So in 2016, I'm pretty sure Vince came here for a month. Had a very immersive, emotional time here. And so his coming to Paris was something based around a lived experience and then the context that he had in LA. More context about him, he worked in Hollywood for many years as an assistant director. That creative spark that's important to him would be in a completely different context.
I mean, come on.
What is spelled in America as shark, S-H-R-K, cutery. A wonderful platter. Let's talk about hospitality. And so when he came here, it was with that 1 month context. He only moved to Paris with about 8 total days as a tourist. I never got to spend that month here, and I think sort of build a sense of what Paris was before I moved.
Oh, right.
So you had a lot more experience with Paris before you came.
Come in.
So did you find, once the early heydays of I live in Paris, getting that, croissant in the morning, walking, down by the Seine, did you find that Paris was delivering? This was something that Molly and I talked about in a live stream some time ago. We'll put a link to that in the description, as well as the card, the Pinch Me, I Live in Paris video. Do you feel that Paris delivered on the premises that you outlined for us?
I don't know if I mean, that's a tricky question because I don't necessarily know if I had a full vision of what it was going to be. I was very open-minded when I first got here that I would accept everything and anything. Yes, it's okay to eat snails with butter. Yes, it's okay to see a skinned rabbit in your butcher shop. I also knew that it was just a matter of time before I was going to bring myself into Paris. I was having parties right away.
Oh, I know. And that's what's wonderful about Paris is nobody expects you to have a big house. Fortunately, we can't show you the apartment. Maybe we'll do an apartment tour, Vince, another time.
I got lucky to get this place, by the way, so there's that.
You know about Montmartre, great neighborhood, lots of different segments of Montmartre. So this is not the touristy Montmartre. This is the locals Montmartre, which in a sense is superior in many ways. Obviously, the looks and feel of the tourist Montmartre has something going for it too, but there's tons of people there all the time. So Vince had a party here, I want to say, with December when you moved, was it?
Yeah, December the next year.
Right. He hasn't been here that long, but he had this really kaleidoscopic group of friends. And I suppose that's where I want to take off, Vince, is are you in contact with any of those people from that party?
Well...
And why or why not?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. I would say 75 to 80% of them aren't in my life anymore.
Poof. Are they in Paris's life?
Yeah, I'm not close to them being in my life anymore. A lot of things have changed. I have a sense of what I want to do as a career now. And I just feel much more settled. I've auditioned everything and everybody, and I've just finally, we've got callbacks now.
For those of you unfamiliar with these industry terms, and have I even highlighted this Aperol Spritz? So I was telling Vince that the weather the last 2 days, you get maybe 10 of these days in Paris a year, but it was 24 degrees, very light wind, mostly sunny, partly cloudy.
24 degrees Celsius.
Just perfect. Yeah, what is that, 74, 73, something like that for the Amerikanski.
Like 74, 75.
Aperol Spritz is precisely the type of drink that you have for this situation. Going back to Vince and the friends, I think we all go through this in Paris because there's a velocity of friendship here.
You went through it?
Well, you easily make friends and you easily lose friends, not because you are ruthless, but because people cycle in and out.
But when did you start to kind of experience this new phase of your Paris life?
I think I probably went through the same as you. Part of that is
in the same time.
You got a hospitable apartment sooner than I did. I wasn't hosting anybody in my 6 square meter chambre de bon in my first 3 months, and then I moved into 8 square meters, which I then had for another 12 months.
You are.
It wasn't until I had my 29 square meter apartment in the second. Great location, my favorite place I ever lived in Paris, where I thought, okay, now I can host dinner parties, now I can have people over. That's probably when that segment of my life expressed itself. I didn't have the friends that Vince had in my first
You
year.
know, I have to say before you go on, Americans who come here, I don't mean to be arrogant about it. I'm just kind of using it, just describing a scenario. When they complain to me about what's going on, I think of you, how you navigated Paris and how you just basically kicked its ass. You basically had Paris at your whim at times, which is amazing because Paris is feminine. Paris has this feminine energy. But Paris has this kick, this kind of thing like, don't, mess with her. And she's just gonna do what she does, and you're gonna have to like it, or you can go.
Yeah, deal with it or move on.
And don't categorize me with the rest of France. Don't call me French. I'm Paris.
Right.
I'm Paris.
Right. Don't worry, the rest of France doesn't want to be associated.
They don't.
They're like,
They don't.
Oh no.
They don't care. Paris does not care.
These are facts. These are facts.
You have to love her. You can hate her, and she gets it. You have to figure her out because she's got 20 different personalities.
This is fair, but I feel like Vince is giving us more advanced level knowledge here. So I roll it back a little bit. Going back to that idea of your friends in that first year, Paris is similar to New York, Shanghai, San Francisco in that there's a velocity of people moving through at any given time. They could be there for an assignment, they could be there for an internship, they could be there for
like
a
that
fellowship.
too, don't you
right.
think?
So cities like people have to realize that doesn't happen in Cleveland. You just have a more static, and I would say in many ways superior way of life. This velocity of people, and you're new yourself, you're just reaching out, hello, hello, hello.
Yeah.
But once you have a place of your own and you can invite people over, then you start to create an entourage. The idiom, entourage, is very fancy. And it's a television show.
Yeah.
It isn't something. But here, your bank, BNP Paribas, sends me a survey. Are you satisfied? Would you recommend us to members of your entourage? That's what it says in French. Yeah. And as an English speaker, you're like, oh, I have an entourage. Thank you very much.
You should.
And so when you have a place to bring people, that your entourage develops, and then obviously they bring friends. I want you to meet Vince, etc.
How you frame that is so beautiful because it really elevates the word in its true meaning, but it's also what I have been trying to do. And so when you ask me why did I come to Paris, it wasn't necessarily, Paris specifically had a lot to do with being Paris. And it was really on a more, I think, spiritual level. I was looking, they say you're looking for your tribe, right? That's like a common thing people say. We're looking for our tribe. It's more than that. Your point about entourage, I am looking for people. I feel like you're in my entourage. You're on the VIP list in my parties. Pierre, he's somebody I met through a dinner with you.
Great guy. Shout out Pierre.
I think if you're watching this, you typically imagine your entourage to be this kind of suave or whatever. No, he's a older Chinese dude. Vietnamese who writes for military defense
with a British accent.
With a British accent and loves movies. That's what Community is all about, right?
Right.
And that's really what we're looking for here is a sense of community. I think between now and then being when I first got here, it's less about Paris, more about, I think, Paris as a hub. So it'll be my home for a while, I think.
There's the reason you come to Paris and there's the reason you stay. Very rarely are they the same thing.
What about you? Tell me about your reason to come and then your reason to stay.
I sold a business and I had my head down building it. I read The 4-Hour Workweek in 2008, asks the critical question, why are you doing this? And I remember writing in the margin or writing my notes, I will answer this question when I sell my business. Keep in mind, it was 2008. I didn't sell my business until 2012. I just knew I was not in a position to actually contemplate what it is I wanted to do with my life. I had put myself into a trap of building a company and really hustling. But I knew that it was an important question because, and this is something I preach now, if you don't know what it is that you want to do with your life, then stop everything you're doing and figure that out. Because we can figure out how to pay for it later. But if you don't know what it is, you're just hamster wheeling. And I hamster wheeled consciously for 4 years until I sold the business. And I think once I did, I was free to think about options. Now that I don't have to run this company, what could I do? And immediately there surfaced, I wanted to move to France, to Paris. I'd had a long romance with Paris in my mind. I had lived in Rome as a student And so the idea was, I'm going to go for a year and see what happens. That's what I told everybody, in part because I didn't even know how to renew a visa. Last thing I ever thought was I was going to become an immigration expert. I said, I don't know if I can renew a visa. I'm going to go there for a year. I told everybody that. And probably 3 months in, I knew it was going to be more than a year. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. So the reason I came to Paris was because I thought, I'm going to live here for the rest of my life. I'm going to have a European life. And weirdly enough...
Where were you living before?
I was in Kansas City.
Okay.
In Kansas City. And I...
Royals fan or Cardinals fan?
Cardinals fan, but apologies to my Kansas City friends that I got my MBA in St. Louis, and I found out what it's like to cheer for a team that has expectations of winning all the time. Which the same summer I went to my first Cardinals game, the Royals were selling DVDs of the 25th anniversary of the one time they won the World Series.
1985, George Brett.
and in the outfield in Busch Stadium, there are 10 pennants with 11 pennants with the expectation
for a long time.
Expectation of 12. And Cardinals baseball. Here we are, America's talking about sports, of course. What do you expect? But the reason I came was I thought France was going to be the center of my life, and what ended up happening was France and Paris became a hub for expressing what it was that I wanted to do, which was it's halfway between Singapore, where my maternal family lives, and America, where my direct family lives. It's directly between them, not only time zones, but the flight times, it's a little longer to go to Asia. But in any case, I realized not that I wanted to live in France for forever. France has been and always will be a big part of my life, but it freed me up to think more freely about traveling, nomading, spending, let's say, 90 days in one place, 90 days in another, and skirting around the visa system, as opposed to doing the whole paperwork, going for citizenship. And that's a different discussion for a different time. But what got me here was the dream of Paris. What kept me here was the promise of a more international life, which I really enjoyed.
So I hope you all enjoyed part 1 of Vince and Steven's conversation. Be sure to tune in for part 2 coming up in about a week. As usual, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're releasing new videos every single week. As usual, see you soon and à bientôt!